Welcome back to Feel It to Heal It. I'm Amin, and I'm very grateful you are here. Today, I'd like to explore something that many practitioners eventually discover, yet we don't often speak about it openly. Over the years, I've watched the world of healing grow in remarkable ways. There are more modalities than ever before, more books, more retreats, more certifications, more energy techniques, more frequencies, more ceremonies, and more promises of transformation. Many of these approaches have a tremendous value. I have studied many of them myself, and each has offered something meaningful to my understanding of healing. But somewhere along the way, I began noticing something. Healing started looks less like journey and more like a shopping cart. Someone attends one workshop, then another. They collect certifications. They search for another healer, another frequency, another ceremony, another activation, another technique. Always believing that perhaps the next thing will finally be the answer. Now, please don't misunderstand me. There's absolutely nothing wrong with learning. There's nothing wrong with exploring different modalities. Every tradition carries wisdom, and every practitioner has something unique to offer. The question isn't whether these techniques are valuable. The question is this: have we begun collecting healing instead of living it? And sometimes, without realizing it, we become seekers of experiences instead of students of ourselves. And that brings us to something important. Healing isn't something that happens because someone waves their hands over you. Healing doesn't happen because you learned another acronym. Healing does not happen because you discovered a new frequency or another spiritual practice. Those things can certainly support the process, but they are not the process itself. Real healing begins the moment we become willing to meet ourselves honestly, to sit with the grief we've been avoiding, to acknowledge the anger we've buried, to soften towards the shame we've carried for years, to listen to the fear beneath our endless busyness. Because healing asks for something that no one else can do for us, it asks for our presence. And one of the greatest misunderstandings I see today is the belief that healing can simply be added into our lives, as though we can gather enough techniques and eventually become whole. But healing doesn't accumulate the way knowledge does. Healing unfolds. Imagine a flower that opening in its own season, like sunrise that cannot be hurried, like a child learning to trust one step at a time. It has its own rhythm: safety before expansion, presence before transformation, integration before the next breakthrough. When we ignore that rhythm, we often mistake movement for progress. As practitioners, we can fall into this trap as well. We genuinely want to help, so we study, we learn, we gather tools, we attend trainings, and there's a beauty in that. Every technique we learn becomes another language through which compassion can be expressed. But wisdom eventually teaches us something unexpected. The deeper or the deepest healing rarely comes from the technique itself, it comes from the space the technique creates. Some of the most profound movements and moments, shall I say, in my own practice have not happened because I used the perfect modality. They happened because someone finally felt safe enough to tell the truth, safe enough to cry, safe enough to stop pretending they were okay, and safe enough to admit they were exhausted from carrying everyone else's expectations. No technique created that moment. The technique simply helped open the door. The person's willingness to walk through it created the transformation. As at this point, you may be wondering, well, if healing ultimately comes from within me, then why would I ever work with a practitioner? That's a beautiful question. Because sometimes we cannot see our own blind spots. Sometimes our nervous system has forgotten what safety feels like. Sometimes we've carried pain for so long that it has become our normal. A good practitioner doesn't heal you, they don't possess something that you lack. Rather, they create a space where your own wisdom can begin to emerge. They help you slow down enough to hear what has always been quietly waiting beneath the noise. They walk beside you not to rescue you, not to fix you, but to remind you that you were never meant to carry your journey alone. And to me, that is the true role of a healer. Not someone who gives you your power, someone who gently helps you remember it. Perhaps that is why I've slowly come to see healing differently over the years. Healing is important, it is sacred, but maybe healing isn't the destination. Maybe healing is the bridge, a bridge that leads us back to something we have never truly lost: our wholeness, our authenticity, our capacity to love, our connection to life itself. In many ways, healing becomes an act of remembering who we were before fear taught us to hide, before pain taught us to harden, before the world convinced us that we were somehow broken. And perhaps that is what all genuine healing has been trying to tell us all along. You were never meant to become someone else. You were simply invited to return to yourself. So before we finish today, I'd like to invite you to pause. If you are driving, simply listen. And if you're somewhere quiet, perhaps allow your eyes to close. Take a slow, gentle breath in and let it go. Again, breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. Without trying to change anything, simply notice yourself. Notice your body resting exactly as it is. Notice your breath moving on its own. Notice the places that feel relaxed and the places that may still be holding on. There's nothing to fix in this moment, nothing to achieve, nothing to become. Simply ask yourself very gently, what within me is asking to be felt today? Don't search for an answer, simply notice what comes. Perhaps it's sadness, perhaps gratitude, perhaps joy, perhaps fear, perhaps nothing at all. Whatever arises, welcome it, not as an enemy, but as a messenger. Now place one hand over your heart. If it feels comfortable, place the other over your abdomen. Feel the warmth of your own hands. Feel your breath beneath them. Now quietly say to yourself, I am here. I am listening. I no longer need to run from myself. I give myself permission to feel. Take one more slow breath And as you exhale, allow yourself to soften just a little more. Remember, healing is not something outside of you. It begins the moment you become willing to be fully present with yourself. Thank you for sharing this time with me. Until next time, keep feeling, keep remembering, and above all, be gentle with yourself. This is Amin, and you've been listening to Feel It to Heal It.